Hello, good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I am Chamberlain Uso.
What a week it's going to be. I hope you're all topped up for it. Good morning and welcome. I'm welcome, Yusuf.
Are you playing on that August visitor, like there'll be a visitor in the coming days because it's a new month? Anyway, welcome to Lagos. I'm Karaoke.
Well, it's not a new month yet. Today is 31st of July. And it's the last day, so yes, it's the eve of August 1. I am Akinde. Good morning and welcome.
Some developments coming through from Adamawa yesterday, raising a lot of concern concerning how states should ramp up their efforts to attend to, you remember what it is, the big question mark about what are they doing concerning these palliatives? And on top of that, Labour themselves gearing up for some actions this week as well, because they are telling the Solicitor General that no courts, neither from the courts, the industrial courts, nothing stops them from embarking on, guess what? They called it peaceful rallies. I do play on words now, the technicalities. I mean, can people have rallies and, you know, if it's not a protest or strike, but this is a peaceful rally. But I guess we will see how all of that plays out. But yes, again, also our neighbors, Mali, everybody just keeping tabs on that.
Mali
just
or Niger?
sure. Sorry, Niger Republic. But of course, it's been sweeping through West Africa. So also, Mali, they say, may also have some recent history about what, probably how to respond to some of these developments in West African coast here. So we're keeping tabs on that as well today here for you on the program. So you have to keep it locked. And don't forget the big one. Today, the Senate will be screening the ministerial nominees, the list sent to them from the executive by the president. So all eyes will be on that one as well. So we will bring you details of that also today. So, but right away, we will go ahead and take you through some of the dailies this morning, and The Guardian focuses on that ministerial screening and different perspectives for different dailies here today. But the big one on the front page of The Guardian for them, economy, rule of law, foreign policy, security, top agenda for nominees. And so the story goes. What and how is it going to go through? What significance will the screening have? Does it usually have any impact whatsoever on the performance of the ministers? Do they know their portfolios already? So lots of backstories, of course, with this one. But then you also get to see key expectations from Tinubu's government and cabinet, also highlighted on the front page here, addressing insecurity challenges, economic revamp and poverty reduction, foreign policy, respect for rule of law. But this respect for rule of law bit, I don't know how many will anchor some things on tribunal. I don't know. Who knows? And then foreign policy, maybe what and how we and ECOWAS respond to what's going on in Mali. I beg your pardon. What the heck you say, Mali? In the Niger Republic, maybe an example to see where and how our foreign policy thrust will be with this government. You never know. So I think he said what? Nigeria is back at some point. So promises to be interesting. And then you also get to see unemployment concerns as 7 firms lose 624 billion naira to naira depreciation. I know they talk so much about palliatives, but I just keep wondering if they've done all of this. There's still some question marks in terms of how to implement this across board and the states. So it will be interesting. And then I know I did speak about the tribunal, but you see at the bottom strip of The Guardian, Presidential Tribunal, INEC, Tinubu, Atiku, Obi to adopt final addresses tomorrow. Oh, what a week it promises to be.
It's going to be a big week, and I did ask, are you prepped for it? A lot happening each day. So much for you to stay glued to the news for. So please keep it locked here, right here on Channels Television, because we'll be bringing you, bit by bit updates on what is happening in different parts of the country and even beyond. Will that be all for The Guardian?
Yeah, even though there are several others, but interesting week, I tell you.
Indeed. Well, take a look at what is happening on the front page of Daily Trust this morning. They have this big one. Niger, Coupists seek Russia's help as ECOWAS mulls military action. That's the lead story here. Clash imminent as regional body orders border closure. No-fly zone. So ECOWAS isn't just threatening. They're putting their money where their mouth is. They had a meeting yesterday. They gave ultimatums. They actually said they will not be afraid of military action should that be necessary. So, and also the new junta in Niger is also not backing down. They are also saying that they are here for stability, and they're saying it's not ECOWAS's business. But hey, ECOWAS is saying we're not going to be any pushover. And you know when ECOWAS speaks, when you know that half the population of ECOWAS is Nigeria's population, that's also Nigeria asserting itself. Will it be able to push forward? Will it get to an open confrontation? The prayer is that it doesn't have to get there. The prayer is that, you know, common sense will prevail. But here we're talking about power, and no one serves power a la carte. You know, people, what's that now that the Bible says about the violent taking it by force? That's basically what you might be seeing here. But hey, it's not a very pretty situation. ECOWAS is really trying to, you know, push itself big on the issue of democracy, and they're sick and tired of coup d'etats happening in different parts of the West African region. So let's see how far. Yeah.
People heard about ECOWAS. I remember when it happened in Côte d'Ivoire several years ago. Now we got there. They kept on asking us in French, are you guys ECOWAS? Can you guess ECOWAS? But what's wrong with you people? Because they brought satellite equipment for transmission. Yeah. And then they thought you were ECOWAS, advanced party, and they were apprehensive. I thought, you really? ECOWAS? And we'll come through the regular airports. Are you guys real? So that kind of heightened fear will be in Niger as well. So they'll be looking over their shoulders to see, since ECOWAS is threatened, what's going to happen?
What's going to happen? It's a big question. I know that we've not really fully written the story of ECOWAS because, you know, Nigeria did pay a heavy price intervening in a number of countries, Sierra Leone, Liberia, you know, trying to get them back on track when, you know, civil wars broke out there. But we sincerely hope that it doesn't get to that in Niger and that, you know, they'll be able to mediate. But ECOWAS is, I beg your pardon, ECOWAS is really putting its foot down on what has happened in Niger Republic, and it does appear that they have backings. But look, the coupists are seeking Russia's help as ECOWAS mulls military action. I don't know, does it remind you of the Cold War, you know, where you found a number of people aligned with the West and some other people aligned with the USSR, you know, with this result, and that would Africa be the, well, we've always been the playground. But then, in a lot of countries, we're non-aligned. A lot of African countries were non-aligned at that time. Will we get back there, or are we going to allow ourselves to be the new playground of the West and the East? Big questions there. But take a look at these other stories you have here. Troops deployed in states as Nama warehouse looted in Adamawa. It's a very horrible sign to see. I mean, the fact that, you know, warehouses are already getting looted. It does, as you rightly pointed out, Chamberlain, states really need to step up whatever plans, since they now know that, look, it is through the states that this palliative would now be implemented. States need to step up the plans for implementing the palliatives, and quickly too, you know, before it degenerates. This is no excuse for criminality. Let's just get this straight, because the fact that you're stealing what is meant for everybody, there's no justification for it. And it's not like as if you stole one bag and then you went to go and eat. No, looting the entire place, that's certainly, you know, criminality at its finest. So this is what we're saying now, that troops have now been deployed to see how they can get rid of that. Infantry declares curfew as 4 hoodlums killed, 80 arrested. States yet to receive grains 10 days after Tinubu's directive. So see why they need to step up on that? Okay, you have a number of other stories, but we're going to leave you there for Daily Trust. Fuel price hike, states strategize ahead of Labour's protest strike. Well, Labour says it's a rally. Okay. Whatever it is, the states are not going to sit down and wait. They're strategizing, which is a good thing. But I hope that this strategy will also involve getting the help to the people as quickly as it demanding it. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust.
And turn our attention to the Nigerian Tribune, which has this as its lead story. Tinubu orders probe of CBN. Names Obaze as special investigator, directs him to work with relevant security and anti-corruption agencies, demands report on public wealth with corrupt individuals and establishments. It's a page 11 read. So yet again, we see that usual move by a new administration to perhaps probe what went on in the previous administration. So just how far up will this go? The probe of a CBN, would it be an independent or would it just be the CBN? What about the role of the people in the executive, the president, for example, and others? Will that also be probed, as it were?
Well, glad to hear. I mean, you also read in that, in the one of the read, there's other related agencies are involved. So what are these other related agencies?
It will be very, very interesting. I hope it's not just for the news, and a lot of people are calling for, well, an independent investigation away from what a lot of people have termed politicization of the whole thing. So, well, we wait and see. Absolutely. We'll keep tabs on this one. But not to forget that the CBN, suspended CBN governor, against court order, is still in detention. Again, when we talk about rule of law, adherence to court orders, this one will definitely stick out. So,
well, even on that one, there are those who would also argue, is he in detention or was he rearrested? Yeah.
Well, the court was quite clear.
6.5
The court was quite clear on that. And in fact, the case was taken to court again after that, and the court again ruled that, hey, you need to do things the right way. So that is that one. But also on the front page, ECOWAS gives Niger coups 1 week to reinstate president. Now, not to take away from the story, but that word, coupist. I mean, it's just right there for you. You have to learn these words. I don't know how deeply rooted that word is. You naturally just get it from the word coup. But
don't also forget that there are those who will say it's Federal Road Safety, well, National Youth Service Corps. But then you call them coppers. And
then he'll tell you, well, copper is not even an English word, it's just an expression. But again, as I said, we're not taking away from the real issues, a serious situation in Niger Republic. And you see, ECOWAS imposes land, air, border closure to use force if deadline not met. Niger military warns against intervention. ECOWAS was trending on social media just over the weekend, and it just raises a lot of people that have not experienced coup in Nigeria, the aftermath, the military regime. Well, a lot of them will not really understand when people tell them you do not want to experience it.
And
really,
you know, sincerely, I think that needs to be drummed seriously into people's ears. There are those who lived within 1993. The worst of it we ever had was between 1985 and 1997-98. It was horrendous, to say the least. Everything was gone. Freedom of speech was gone. Liberty to you go out of your house in the morning, particularly between 1993 and 98. You go out of your house in the morning, you are not sure. No, 97. You go out of your house in the morning, you are not sure whether you're going to be able to come back in the evening. There was no press. There was no press. It was just guerrilla journalism. Well, some will call it vintage journalism at its best at the time. But hey, no one wants that.
Absolutely. I still remember the scenes of rejoicing when news filtered in of the death of the former military leader Abacha in the streets. You think someone just, Nigeria just won a match or something. They just declared a largesse for Nigerians. So you can imagine what a lot of people went through that time. So we'll leave you there for the Nigerian Tribune, but clearly that's not the end for the paper's review.
Yeah, because interestingly, this Nigeria has the same lead as the Nigerian Tribune, only differently couched. Anti-graft, Tinubu probes CBN, other related bodies. That's the way you have it right there. Appoints ex-Financial Reporting Council boss Obaze as special investigator to investigate illegally held government wealth in hands of private and public persons, to report directly to President weekly. Interesting. Right beside the nameplate, National Assembly under siege by hoodlums. Akpabio raises the alarm. That's something that needs to be questioned because, hey, It's the chairman of the National Assembly and president of the Senate raising that alarm. What does that mean? Check the details on the inside pages. And of course, this Nigeria also has Coup. ECOWAS imposes sanctions on Republic of Niger military junta, calls for immediate release and reinstatement of President Bazoum. That story is on page 2. That picture is of the extraordinary meeting of heads of states in West Africa. That's this Nigerian newspaper today.
All right, let's take a look at New Telegraph then, even though if you get back to The Guardian, wonders are happening in this economy, because I skipped that part where it says native doctor pays 350 million naira ransom, recounts kidnappers killing of 20. Native doctor. Wow.
Kidnappers are demystifying native doctors. Is that what they're doing? They're trying to demystify native doctors, or kidnappers themselves have another.
Non-citizens can't even access palliatives. Native doctor is paying 350 million naira as ransom.
It's no ordinary native doctor, Chamberlain. He owns a whole hotel in Anambra.
How did he get money to build a hotel?
It's making medicine for people.
From native doctorship?
Native medicine.
Oh, my goodness. Who's paying him? Look, I'm suspecting some of you Nigerians out there. How did he get 350 million?
Some trades are more lucrative than they seem.
Goodness me.
You think Nollywood is just drama, eh? Is that what you think?
Oh, wow. Oh, boy.
Oh, dear.
But look at New Telegraph. Revenue generation. We should target native doctors, please. FG goes after own assets fraudulently procured. Files motion for stay of execution on a 2A Osborne Road, Ikoyi property. Okay, so you know who owns that property, you know why. Okay, well, look, this is the lead story. I would like you to just go ahead and read it. But look at this. This is a message to everybody, to Nigerians. NLC to Nigerians. Stop lamenting. Join us on streets on Wednesday. FG Labour may not control protests. SLA, NECA warn. Nigerians may pay more for fuel after September. Ex-TUC president. Well, he did hint about some of those in terms of what happens in the international market. And, you know, when you thought you were going to buy it for 540, 537 naira per litre, in some states 480-something in Lagos, only for a few weeks after, 617 naira per litre. That was an opera, hoopla, and rightly so. And now you get to read, you may pay higher for petrol subsidy. Someone said, just kill us. What else do you asking for? And then maybe you need to notice this at the bottom strip. Not brushing your teeth at night can be deadly.
Oh, well, that's something that you should note for your health, for your own health and well-being. Well, take a look at what the Abuja Inquirer has on its front page. Insecurity, FCT states to engage vigilante for polio vaccination. That's the lead story right there. Polio is not over. Yes, we've been declared polio-free, but there's still work to be done. For you to stay free, you have to keep up with the vaccination. So the Abuja Inquirer is following up on that lead story there. Ministerial list, gender activists kick, demand 35% representation. That story is also there on page 3 of the paper. And this one is a very interesting one. FCTA blames desert trees for bad roads in Abuja. So just in case you're wondering, and it's something that you should give thoughts to. One of the things that you'll certainly notice about the FCT when you come in is the greenery. It's so beautiful, especially in the rainy season. That's why
street lights too.
Killjoy. That's the reason why I can't wrap my head around, you know, the fact that people want to travel for summer. But never mind. The trees also have a cost. I mean, when you plant trees, if they're not the right kind for a particular place, they could develop roads and destroy the asphalt in many places. So it does appear that that's happening in some areas of Abuja. You might want to read page 5 of the Abuja Inquirer to see details of that. Let's leave it there for the paper.
You pick a copy of the Daily Times, this is what you see staring at you in the face. State APC chieftains question Tinubu governors intensify lobby. This, by the way, is about the ministerial list. Different structure, different folks, right? I know a lot of people thinking, where did this come from? Wow, so this is a major issue right now. But it is what it is, really. A lot of people are concerned about survival. For some other people, well, something else entirely.
It's very interesting. So this, a ministerial list is just what? Maximum 42? We still have 1,484 ministries, departments, agencies, and corporations of government that
be filled, right?
That will be filled, and that's just for the heads. Multiply that number by 5. You have boards of these MDAs and all those things. So hey, I don't even know. And then there is ambassadorial appointments and all. I don't even know if we'll finish that this year.
We should talk about that economy. You know, the reward economy for politicians, really, because at the end of the day, it's beyond service for them. For some of them, it's just, I worked for you during elections, give me something to hold on to. So.
Well, yeah, you gotta have anyway. It's, I guess we'll see how the president himself handles it, because he owes Nigerians what he promised.
Absolutely. But take a look at this one. Court orders ECOWAS government to account for 200 billion naira UBEC funds. Will appeal, says ex-governor Scam. It is work of enemies, Delta State government. Okay, so I'll just let you chew on that one, you know, and leave it there for the Daily Times newspaper.
Switch to Leadership newspaper this morning, and I am very, very concerned about what's on the front page. Very, very concerned, because it speaks directly to the economy of that region. Moribund companies dot north amid insecurity, infrastructure delay. Now, you see the graphics on the front page? It talks about 10,000 jobs lost in Borno, 44 years of industrialization on a gradual but steady decline. 84 companies so far closed shop, and the sales of one of the biggest companies in the north has dropped from 70% to 30%. Over time, the details you will find. States with least industry presence, you have Adamawa, Kebbi, Jigawa, Taraba. Gosh, these governors have work cut out for them. That's the lead story of the Leadership newspaper. The details you find on the inside pages. But then look at this one right under the nameplate. Cost slows CNG conversion as alternative auto fuel. Most certainly so. The details are on the front page, and let's know what you think of that particular story. What has been your experience in the effort to convert your vehicle from auto fuel to CNG? What has been your own experience? Find the details on the front page. Continues on page 7 of the Leadership newspaper today.
All right, take a look at Vanguard next. Subsidy removal. Nigeria on brink of collapse. Ascribed to Catholic bishops. So, there you go. I guess it's hitting home. Yeah. And then look at the host of riders they've got here. Say, palliatives, never a cure for any economic challenge. Asks FG to identify those who swindled Nigeria through fuel subsidy. Bring them to justice. That's Vanguard, guys. Notes, Nigerians cannot suffer for corruption of a few people. Address workers, Nigerians' pains. NECA urges FG. Warns strike, mass protest may cause breakdown of law and order, kill businesses. Presidency keeps mum. So that is Vanguard newspaper right there for you. So I guess several others, but that is a big one on the front page of Vanguard today.
Nigerian News Direct has this one on its front page. No going back on August 2 nationwide protest, Labour insists. Issues advisory to Nigerians in preparation. No court order stopping us from embarking on peaceful protests. NLC tells FG, well, I guess Jemilin highlighted that as well. But here is NECA predicting increase in unemployment and poverty if strike proceeds. Okay, so that's interesting. Assumption of employers is that there's going to be a strike, but NLC is saying it's not strike, it's
protest.
Protest.
Yeah, I mean they had used the word action, and I mean, for them, the action is a protest. But whatever the case is, we have real challenges that need to be resolved. How we go about resolving them is the issue now. So, hey, by all means, let's be lawful in whatever it is we do, definitely.
But then look at that one right beneath the pictures on the front page. We have achieved 64.1% financial inclusion. That's ascribed to the CBN. Okay. I guess that's something to...
I know there's been a lot of work, really, from the CBN, the Bankers Committee. There's been a lot of work in trying to get people into the financial net with lots of programs. So I don't think it's really surprising to see that boost. But hey, there's still 36% to go. So,
and then this one, I don't know how cheering it is, Cardi. More tough policies will be implemented to reposition government for productivity. That's ascribed to the president.
So it's important to say that this is government, to reposition government. So I imagine the tough decisions will be made within government, reducing the cost of governance, cutting down the excesses, tightening the belt of, the government, because the government is what is said there, not for the people. Except you want the people to disappear. Yeah. Well, take a look at Daily Independent quickly this morning, and this is what you find there. There's little CBN can do to tame supply-induced inflation. Now, that's a quote. Who is saying that? Well, EIU sees CBN-controlled exchange rate coming back soon. Really? Well, more details on the inside pages. Again, that's just another shocker for you on the front pages this morning. And, of course, the ECOWAS story makes its way. ECOWAS threatens military intervention in Niger Republic. So, lots of stories, really, making the front pages this morning. But we'll just leave it there for the Daily Independent. Let me just mention this one for you. NDLA arrests artist's manager, businessman who sells drugs at Lagos clubs. I just wanted to mention that was trending over the weekend as well. There you have it, the Daily Independent, and that wraps our look at the front pages this morning. We're getting started with the big one, and that's just right in a moment. Stay with us.
It's the final plenary session in the Senate for the week, and the 60 days constitutional deadline looms for President Bola Tinubu to send a list of his ministerial nominees to the Senate for confirmation. A few minutes past 11 a.m., lawmakers begin to trickle into the chamber. In the gallery upstairs, the mood is expectant as journalists and observers wait in anticipation of the Senate President to read the correspondence from President Tinubu containing the ministerial list. In the chamber, senators huddle in groups, having private discussions as they await the arrival of the Senate President. By noon, it's obvious that the Senate President is running unusually late for plenary. He finally walks into the chamber by 5 minutes past 12. A few minutes into plenary, the Senate Majority Leader calls for an executive session. Nearly 30 minutes later, the executive session ends. The Senate leader thereafter asks the upper chamber to suspend its rules to allow President Tinubu's chief of staff entry into the chamber.
Former Speaker of the House, of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, be admitted into chamber to deliver, and being specific, it is the ministerial list from Mr. President. Thank you, sir. I so move.
Senator Akpabio proceeds to finally read the correspondence from President Tinubu with the names of 28 ministerial nominees. Prominent on the list are 4 former governors, Nyesom Wike, Nasir El-Rufai, Dave Umahi, and Badaru Abubakar. Some former lawmakers made the cut, namely Senators Abubakar Kyari, John Eno, Sani Danladi, Honorable Ekperipe Ekpo, and Honorable Olubumi Ojo. There are 7 female ministerial nominees: Mrs. Hanatu Musawa, Dr. Betta Edu, Dr. Doris Uzoka, Representative Nkiruka Onyejocha, Representative Stella Okotete, Mrs. Iman Ibrahim, and Representative Uju Ohaneye.
Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tuka, CON. 3. Architect Ahmad Dangiwa, Chief Uche Naji, Mr. Bello Muhammad Goronyo, 18. Mr. Dele Alake.
While the Senate waits to receive the additional nominations, some lawmakers share their thoughts on the ministerial nominees and what to expect from the upcoming screening exercise.
I am very highly impressed because most of them are technocrats, and the technocrats out of them are technocrats that have proven their worth, their capacity and ability in their chosen endeavors or careers.
We just got 28 names, and we're expecting more. So we believe that between now and Monday, we should be able to get the complete list. But we're going to make do with the 28 that we have. So we have just called for their CVs, because we don't have any of their CVs. So I believe that by this weekend, we'll have the CVs.
We're expecting to see the people come before the Senate for screening. They will answer questions, lots of questions, because these ministerial positions are not for patronizing people. We are looking at those who will be able to serve the Nigerian people.
The Senate president did not disclose when President Bola Tinubu will send the remaining names of the ministerial nominees. But the screening of the 28 nominees is expected to begin on Monday, July 31st. From the National Assembly, Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. So let's take you through the report you just saw, and probably some backstory as well. So we've got Dr. Nicholas Felix, former APC presidential aspirant, a former deputy national youth coordinator for the presidential campaign council of the party, as well as Princess Atika Achana, former assistant secretary, protocol and events of the same APC's campaign council. Good morning, and thank you for coming on, both.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Well, I know there are mixed feelings for generality of Nigerians, but you party folks probably have some backstory, what's happening, is everybody happy? What kind of reaction are you getting from this list within the party, perhaps?
Everyone is very happy because going by the Renewed Hope Manifesto, the promises that Mr. President made in the manifesto, and also going by his inaugural speech on the inauguration day, we can see clearly that he's already walking the talks. You know, I'm particularly happy because we had 7 women, that's 25% of 28 names that was sent to the Senate last week, Friday. And when I looked at the caliber of women who were chosen, you know, as part of the nominees, I was very happy. And then I said, okay, the hope we're talking about is truly here.
So he fulfilled the promise he made to the women?
Oh, yes, he did. He told us on inauguration day and in his Renewed Hope Manifesto that he would carry the women along. He was going to give us a space on the table And that when you talk about women, he also emphasized that women are not just the old folks. He was particular about young women. So I'm more than happy to see that we have 2 women, one 37, one 39 years old, below 40, because he said he was going to make 3 people below 40 ministers in his cabinet, because it's time we don't just tell the youth, you're the leaders of tomorrow. It's youth o'clock, and that's why he's here, to actualize that. And,
is that just to say that there will not be, it doesn't matter if they're ministers of state or lead ministers, it doesn't matter. As long as
what I think is very important is that these women have been identified in their various areas of strength. These are women who currently are handling very sensitive positions. We have an ED of Nexim Bank there. We have the national woman leader of the All Progressives Congress. We have the Federal Commissioner of Internally Displaced People and Refugee. So we have people, we have a ranking House of Representative member, part of them. We have medical doctor who digressed from medicine to finance. She's commissioner for finance right now. So I believe they know their competence, they know their capabilities in any area or field they are found. The portfolio they give them, they would deliver. Because there are women who have track records of delivering on their saddled responsibilities. So I have no doubt, and I have no fear, I have no worries. A minister is a minister.
Well, obviously, you've done a poll of people in your party and you say everyone is happy. I sincerely hope that your compatriot here, Dr. Nicholas Felix, is as happy as you say he is. Dr. Felix, what's your own reaction? Are you happy?
Of course. The list is not complete yet, first of all. And I must tell you, when I watched the Senate President reading this live, one area I was very, very excited about was the area of the women. And 7 women in the cabinet, and these are not just random women. I know at least 6 of them there. If you talk of party loyalty, they're there. If you talk of competence, they're there. If you talk of working very hard for the victory of the president, I flew with most of them to several rallies, including, Princess. And so I think they checked all the boxes to be there. So, for example, Barrister Oju is somebody I know very well. Sometimes we're on the phone for 1-2 hours together. She's somebody I know that is very passionate when it comes to humanitarian service. So I know she will do extremely well. Dr. Betta, I don't think there's anything you will give Dr. Betta that she will not handle. She's not a woman that you can push over. So seeing her there, I would have been disappointed if I don't see her on that list. Seeing her there, I know definitely. Barrister Netu, of course. I have a soft spot for her. So when I saw her there, I was very excited because I remember doing the screening, presidential screening. The panels were getting very hard on me. She was the only one cutting the slack, and she made a statement. I don't know if you're going to win this election, but Nigeria should watch out for you. So anytime I see her, I remember that statement. So seeing her there, I know she's going to do very well. So for the women, the president has fulfilled his promise.
Has he?
Yes. It's fulfilling.
Yeah, we're going to get not just 35, well, 40%. Because if you see the appointments he has done so far, we've been given 40%. So far, so good, all in all. So
I'm glad you have a woman here. So she's excited. I'm excited for the women. And just the youth yet, we're yet to see. So I'm hoping that the list that is coming is going to be filled with youth. Because for that of the youth, we haven't seen that yet on the list. But when I looked at,
they don't qualify as youth?
No, we're going to separate the two. When I looked at the 3 key things in the manifesto, number 1, the president promised a government of national unity. He has fulfilled that.
How?
By having somebody like Wike, and I think there's somebody else from Oyo who's from SDP. So that is massive. That is good. This tells me that the president is doing and is going to do exactly what he has said in his manifesto. The president promised the women, carrying them aboard, and you can see just 28 names, 7 women already there. That tells you the president is doing it. That's why I'm very hopeful that the next list coming out is going to be filled with youth. To kind of, complete the entire, the promise, 3 major areas when it comes to the ministerial list that the president promised. So we have confidence and we know that the president, we keep fulfilling his promise. Not just in the area of, the ministerial list. There are so much when it comes to policy making and the rest of that. This is a 4-year tenure, so there's still a long way to go. So when you see a man doing exactly what he has promised, it gives you the confidence.
Your state is SDP. That's Mr. Wahid Adebayo Adelabu.
I know that Wike and there's somebody else from another party who was brought on board. Even if it's just one, for you to have somebody from another party, that speaks a lot. Some people may not be happy with that, which I always tell, if you cut somebody, they're going to bleed. But at the end of the day, if you were the president and you promised government of national unity, where are you going to bring the people from? From mass? They're going to have to come from other parties. I'm quite sure if those from the Labour Party stretched forth their hands of fellowship, probably would have one or two persons there too, just to be able to fulfill that.
How do you mean stretch forth their hands of fellowship?
I mean, after the election, the president kept calling everybody to come together. When he gave the speech on the day of, when he received the certificate of return, he called everybody to come on the table. Apparently, some people...
The Labour refused?
Some people refused to, to come to the table to discuss. Probably they still agree, but some stretched for their hand of fellowship. And now we see the president fulfilling his promise when it comes to a government of national unity. This election was very tense, you must understand that. So for him to be doing this, I have so much confidence in him.
Well, first and foremost, you've talked about the women, and, some people will say, oh, this is still not what, a lot of people are asking for. They think that women should at least be 35%. So on that count, it does appear that, yes, there's, significant number of women, but not yet what it is that a lot of people are agitating for. How do you respond to that?
I tell a lot of people, we've been speaking on this particular issue, and I told them that we still have about 12...
Within your party?
Yes, about 11 states. Nominees are yet to come from those states, and I am confident. If I have never been confident about anything, I was part of the 50 women delegation who visited the president 2 weeks ago to congratulate him on assumption of duty as well as his election as chairman of ECOWAS. And he promised, he reiterated, he assured us that he's going to keep to his promise. And he had promised to give the 35% affirmative action across boards, not just in the ministerial nomination, as you've started seeing, heads of parastatals, heads of government agencies, top government agencies, A-list parastatals, members of his inner caucus, like the 8th. You saw the list that came out, the 20-man list. And then the former special advisors list that came out. We have 40% already. That's why I say I don't have iota of doubt that he's also going to do this, because he has done it, and he's promised. And he also told us that we'll see a lot of people below the age of 50. We have several of them in the list now. So I don't know if Pastor Nicholas is going by the United Nations standard of saying 35 and below, but we know globally it's accepted that 45 and below are youth. And in there right now, we have about 6 of them. We have about 6 of them. We have the likes of Honorable Tunji Ojo, was born in 1982.
Yeah.
We have Iman Suleiman, it's 1980, was born in 1980. We have 1979. So, I mean, if you ask me, I would say that he's trying to balance it. And what we were complaining about, because I was particularly happy, I said, what a time to be a young woman in Nigeria. When people will look at you, and when they talk about youth, you're not just looking at the other gender. You're looking at both genders, because you have the youth comprises of male and female. But over the years, it's been sidelined. So in this Asiwaju regime, and I also know that he's going to make sure that when it comes to party affairs, we're going to, in his time, also witness a woman being the first national youth leader of a political party in Nigeria. I have no doubt. So
you seem very, very confident, and I don't want to take your confidence away, but then have you also heard some of the reactions from the general public? There are people who say, oh, no, there is nothing to be excited about in this list. I mean, 28 names. Yes, you have a few technocrats, but they think that where we currently are at, in terms of our economic problems, our security problems, that we're so close to being on the brink that we should be getting people with technical know-how, people with expertise, experts in various fields to, populate this cabinet. And they're not quite seeing that. They think this is just a list of reward, it's more a political list than a list that is meant to actually show that government intends to work the talk when it comes to bringing people, raising them up and leading them to prosperity.
So far, I don't see anything on that list that will not cause anybody to be excited. If you permit me, before I dive into that, I think if there's any group of persons or people who should be, asking for more, is the youth. Let me quickly dissect the difference so we're on the same page. there are a lot of young women on that list, which is very good. And I even seen youths under 50. In my consideration, you are still young, except if you choose to be old when you are 45. But if you're under 50, you are still in that category. But for the women who are there, they are checking the box of women, not just youth. For example, when the president met with the women, they were there as women. They represent women. And I'm expecting that when they are sitting on the table, they are going to be speaking on behalf of the women, representing the women. But when the president met with the youth, they were not there as youth. So that's the difference. And I'll be very disappointed if we get sidelined again by just saying they're all young. No, this is going to be the same whole trick. The women have got what they asked for. They're still asking for more. But we want to see more of those who are representing the youth. I'm not saying they have to just be men. For example, there's this lady, I think it's Aisha, that was very outspoken, even though she's a young woman, but you can see she's speaking for the youth. She's representing the youth, category, not just checking the box of the women. So I want to quickly put this out there to let us know that women got what they want. Government of National Unity, they have gotten what they want. We as youth, we are hopeful that the next list that is coming out, we should be able to see more. There can be young women, but who represent the youth, not just representing the women. So let me quickly put that out there. That's the only thing in that list. Now, understand that you cannot have, yes, we want young people, we want technocrats. Even if I was elected president, some of these old faces, like you would call them, you still have to have them on board. You can't just get rid of them, everybody, and just bring just fresh blood, alone in the system. So the president has balanced it. We have a lot of young women. We have a 41-year-old Professor Patti. I don't think he's somebody that was appointed because they want to reward him. I think he's somebody that everybody has agreed that this man is bringing a lot to the table. So I think you have to balance it. You cannot just have a whole set of just one group of persons. Like I said, at my young age, if I was, opportunity to be elected president, even as much as I advocate for youth, it doesn't mean the cabinet will just be youth and just new faces. We also need some old faces to carry along.
Let's bring our colleagues in from Lagos.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Let me begin with Dr. Felix. For a lot of people, they had expected that perhaps your name would have made that list, saying that you had, joined ranks with the president now, you made some moves and all of that. So I don't know if you're disappointed, if you had expected your name to show up on that list. But, both of you essentially have said that you're excited about this list. Essentially, the names on it, you perhaps picture great things to happen. But for a lot of Nigerians, I'd like you to speak to them. What exactly is it in practical terms to be excited about this list? And judging from recent history, were you excited, for example, by the performance of these outgone ministers from the previous administration? Because there was a lot of excitement then, there was a lot of eyeballs on their screening and all of that. For you, seeing their performance after all of that excitement with the nomination, were you excited? And more importantly, what is different this time around? Because for a lot of people, they didn't see anything that changed, really.
Okay. First of all, the first question of my name being on the list, of course, I've gotten that question a lot, that expectation. But like I said, I relocated back to Nigeria after spending over 2 decades in the United States, and I've offered myself for service. Of course, it's up to the president to deem it, if he deem it fit for me to be in his cabinet. I've always said I'm one phone call away. That aside, the excitement for me, first of all, is number one, this is a man who came and promised. He promised to have women in his cabinet. He promised a government of national unity. Now, when you see a man, fulfilling his promise at this early stage, it tells you that every other thing he has said is going to ensure that he perform on them. He carry out his promise. So that's the first excitement. And now, when you go through the list, I don't know everybody on the list, but I'll just speak on one, a few of them that I know. For example, a lot of people may not be excited seeing somebody like Governor Wike. Governor Wike has been on the opposition side, and I'm not saying this now because the president has appointed him. He's somebody I've always liked the fact that he was, they call him Mr. Project. this guy has done a lot of projects in Port Harcourt, and inviting, people from other parties, commissioning projects all the time. President Muhammadu Buhari called him Mr. Project. At the end of the day, I would love to see somebody like that, as Minister of Works, to continue what we know him to do best. On a lighter note, who wouldn't want to see Wike and his band? It's always entertaining, singing and all of that. Who wouldn't want to see him? So that's one part of it. Is he El-Rufai? This is a man who said, I don't want to be a minister, but yet the president says, I need you on board. The president knows why he chose Governor El-Rufai. Is it the women who are there, Barrister Oju, like I said? Is it Dele Aleke? When I saw Dele Aleke was appointed as SC, first of all, I said to myself, this is a man who has shown great loyalty to the president. I think he should be a minister. So see him there, it's exciting. But the first point for me, the excitement is, a man promised that he's going to get women on board. Now we have 7 women, thus far, hoping to get more like the women wish. And he promised government of national unity. We have seen that on the list. Right. So that's the excitement. We know most of the things that he promised, he's still going to perform on them.
Right. Let me take this to Eteka Jano. And still the same question, but I'll just rephrase it because you can tell what a man, in this case a party, will do from what it has done, well, now in recent times. So looking at, again, the outgone ministers, the ministers in this previous administration, with all of the excitement that came, and then the performance they put on board, what is different this time around? I mean, you belong to the party, and this is an extension, a lot of people will say, of the Buhari government, because it's still the same APC that is in power. So really, were you excited about the performance of the previous ministers such that you're now excited that, okay, this will continue in that trajectory?
Thank you very much. I am very excited, and then I also like to mention that I was an essay to a minister in the past administration. I was an essay to the Minister of State for FCT. And you would all agree with me that in the history of FCT, the way the area councils were developed and carried along had never been done before. She was a minister who came under the President Muhammadu Buhari administration, and she gave her best. She is a town planner. She used her experience as a town planner. We also had the substantive minister then, Mohamed Musa Bello. He came. There were a lot of uncompleted projects by the previous PDP administration. He came and ensured that these projects were completed. And then there used to be a lot of racketeering when it comes to contracts and then a payment of contracts or what some. So I was in the FCT. I worked very closely with 2 ministers. Then on a general note, I would say that the Buhari administration ministers did their bits. Of course, you have pocket of ministers who underperformed here and there, but again, you people come all the time to tell us APC is perceived as one party. So what you're seeing, it's continuation. But from what you have seen so far, you will know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said he's going to look more into competence. He's going to be more of a government of national competence than national unity. And that's what I have seen on the list. People talk about technocrats. Who are technocrats? You're talking about professionals in a particular field based on training or experience. We have a lot of them. If you look at that list, even those who are practicing partisan politics are also technocrats. Will you call someone like an El-Rufai, Governor El-Rufai, as somebody who is just compensated? He is a professional, a first-class graduate of quantity surveyor. Or is it Engineer Dave Umahi, the former governor of Ebonyi State? He is a seated engineer. So we have lots of... Dr. Ali Pate was Minister of State Health, and we all knew what he did. The primary health care sector of Nigeria started blossoming. We got to know about free vaccination. We got to know about the door-to-door vaccination taken to the next level. During his time, remember he's in the United Nations. He has agreed to come over. Or is it the legal luminary himself? He is the oldest on the list. And, you know, that also brings me to appreciating Mr. President, because he said he's going to have the very old, the people who have been around for so long, the people who are new in the system, who have something to offer, and people who are just midway there. So everyone will be carried along. Someone like me now, I'm so confident that he has someone in my age cadre who will listen to needs of people in my category. So we have technocrats, we have people who are just concerned because they could see faces during campaigns making the list and they just assumed it's based on compensation rather than merit. Every single person on that list, you can go through their profile. I'm sure we'll have short profiles of them. I can go through all of it. And there are people who I've worked closely with. And I tell you without iota of doubt in my mind that these people are going to deliver. The first, and you know, we should just watch out for massive socioeconomic development coming our way in Nigeria this time around, because we have a seasoned economist. You can see Wale Edu.
Madam, it is to be expected that you know, politicians such as yourself and Dr. Felix would praise to high heavens the list that the president has come up with. But let me ask Dr. Felix. I mean, looking at the fintech space, for instance, youths dominated. And there are those who believe very, very strongly that technology is the new oil. And it's the young people that play the most in that space. So it only then raises the question, not just of policies, but of capacity to understand the ecosystem, the technology ecosystem. So that's perhaps another background to Chamberlain's question about young people not being as represented as one would have expected. Knowing what they have been doing at their private level, you know the value that they have generated from the businesses that they created and sold in hundreds of millions of dollars. So what would be the premise by your own, from your own understanding, as to why the president perhaps has not, you know, added any young people of significant tech experience in his cabinet so far?
Yes, thank you for that question, and thank you for, you know, the manner at which, you know, you presented it, because I was in a podcast with someone on Saturday, and this gentleman was saying the youth are the problem of this country. I was very pissed hearing that, you know, understanding that a lot of youth are making it in the private sector. Look at our musicians, you know, they no longer even just perform in Nigeria. They are shutting down stadiums in Europe, in America. You know, they are making us very, very proud. Is it the technical word? The youth are doing, you know, extremely very well. Of course, we have a 41-year-old there, Tunde Joe, born in 1982. That's one, and, you know, we're excited. Like I said, we still have about 13 to go. When you look at the fact that the president added, you know, all the women, 7 women so far on this list, it's as if, you know, let me put this out for us. That's why I'm hopeful and I'm expecting that the next list will be filled with young people, youth, you know, to kind of balance what we've been asking for. Again, these are young women, but we need those who are going to be speaking, representing the youth. That's what I've been championing. That's what I've been advocating. And that's the only reason, to be sincere with you, why I went through with the primaries. Just to have a youth on that day stand and speak to represent the youth, because we've been just absent for just too long with this mindset that we have nothing to offer. That's why I really appreciate your question, understanding that the youth have a lot to offer. We have so much to bring on the table. We have proven it in the private sector. We are proving it in, you know, in is it entertainment, is it sport? We're not just asking for this because we are just, you know, because youth are absent. We have something to bring up on the table. For example, somebody like at the age of 36, I started running a multi-million-dollar company, built from scratch, started with 1 employee, and within the past 9 years, hired over 3,000 people, currently over 250 employees in the United States, and so much investment all over the place. So when you have youth like this who have done so much, for example, entertainment industry, technology, at the end of the day, when it comes to politics, you say we have nothing to offer. It becomes so annoying and insulting to our struggle as youth. So the president has fulfilled his promise, you know, bringing young people on board, the young women. We have 1 youth there already. And we're hoping that the next list, we're going to see more of them. So there's nothing to be scared of. There's nothing to be afraid. We are not angry. No, we're excited. Like I said, for me, the fact that I'm seeing him doing what he promised, it tells me that is going to continue doing so.
Well, I'm a little
Can I just
concerned.
add to that?
Madam, just one moment. Okay, go ahead, madam. Add what you want to add.
Yes, you were talking about, young people, because of the technical world, the way the world is revolving right now. There's somebody on that list already who is a youth and also a techie person, and he's Honorable Tunji Ojo. Honorable Tunji has about 7 certifications in, he's also a certified ethical hacker. He was trained abroad, he was working, he's one of those people who were helping us to curb cybercrime, and you saw in the House how he was, the first 2 sittings they've had, you've seen how vibrant he's been speaking up pretty much on curbing cybercrime and putting some laws in place and then having training programs. So he's coming in with his own wealth of experience.
Understood. It's quite well understood. And so, yes, it's understood and it's well appreciated. But Dr. Felix, let me come back to you. When we talk about young people, the United Nations says youth is between ages 15 and 24. In Nigeria, according to the youth policy of National Youth Policy of 2019, a youth is between ages 18 and 29. We definitely can't say they don't have anything to offer. So let's bring it home to young people, youths, the way they really are. I can understand the arguments that you've proffered the other time, but I'm looking for inspiration for these young people from the ministerial list. Many of them do not know a host of the people that have so far been listed on. And in another list is going to come, so far from what we have heard from the Chief of Staff to the President. So it is that inspiration that I am looking for young people, that they can say, yes, I know 1 or 2 of these people, I can identify with 1 or 2 of these persons, and I am inspired that so long as this individual is on the list, I am inspired.
Yes, I know Mr. President is going to fulfill his promise. You see, one of the reasons I went all the way for him, joining and supporting him, was just this fact. Maybe you don't know, in 2019, I was a presidential candidate. I think we were about 72 candidates, and there were over 35 young candidates, presidential candidates. And at the end of the day, I came 3rd position after Atiku Abubakar in the general election. And after the election, my party wanted us to go. Since we were the 3rd place winner, this government has promised government of national unity and all of that. I declined. I didn't go. I went straight back to America. I never came back. You know, I said, I don't know if we are going to be carried along in this administration, and I do not have the time and stress to go. But when it comes to this president, he didn't have to say too much because of his antecedent. Recently, when the youth went to see him, I pay close attention to little things like this. When the youth went to see him, and Dio Israel, you know, a very vibrant young man, spoke very eloquently. And I saw the president clapping. I don't think I've seen the president clap in any event like that. He was literally clapping. I said to myself, that's what we want to see. A man who understands, a man who wants to carry us along, a man who understands that the youth are important. He was literally cheering up for the way Dio Israel spoke. That's what we're looking at. Again, a new list is coming out, and I have the confidence that since the women are already happy, national unity is there, there are going to be more youths on that new list. That will cause the whole thing to be purely balanced. He's just 28 yet. I think we have up to 13 more to go. And I will not be surprised to see 5, 6, 7 of them as young people. I mean, if you listen to what the Chief of Staff said, the president is being very meticulous. You know, there are some people there who you can give 2 or 3 positions, 3 ministries, and they will do well. So he's trying to make sure he checks the boss. And if he gets everybody together on you know, the entire names and be able to tick it better, I think that we do better. Sometimes we have to be a little bit patient and not just rush.
What exactly? With the attaching portfolios to the names?
Yes. 28 names are already there.
As patient as when? How long?
I mean, when I say patient, it's just 60 days a year already. I'm saying, let the other 13 names come. Let's have the full list.
Yeah, but we're saying, look, the president said, look, he's asked for this job. a long time ago. He's ready to hit the ground running. So what's the big deal about attaching portfolios to the names?
He has been hitting the ground running. Everything has been happening.
Attaching portfolios to the names.
He's going to do that. We have 28 names. I think it makes sense to get others on board. Let us have the 42 or 43, and he can attach the portfolio. So,
but when you set up the multi-billion-dollar company, did you interview people without knowing what they were going to do?
I'm sure the president already knows.
No, I mean the people who were interviewed. Did they know where you were going?
The fact that he has not announced the portfolio doesn't mean he doesn't know who he's going to give.
So senators will just get in there. They'll just have general questions without knowing where they're going to go to. How does that help everybody who wants to follow through?
I believe the president already has a portfolio, you know, at least for some persons. I don't believe everybody there, he just chose them and say, later I'm going to think about it. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I know he already has a portfolio for, you know, some of them, but
he didn't give it to the Senate. He didn't attach it.
Yeah, but he wouldn't attach some and leave some. You know, that wouldn't make any sense.
So he doesn't know what he wants to give to other people?
Like I said, somebody like Dr. Betta Edu, I'm sure she would do well when it comes to health, women affairs, name it. Well, it would be good.
Dr. Patti is there too as a health person.
I'm just trying to let you know, some persons there can wear more than one hat. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure you check all the boxes and not just give the person maybe women affair, where, okay, somebody else can do women affair, why you take this? So that's the point. So many of these guys are so capable. It's not just doing one thing.
But this is not a big deal because the chief of staff himself, when he was speaker, before he became speaker, did advocate the same thing, that portfolio should be attached to names. So it's not, we're not asking anything out of the ordinary.
For me, as an advocate of the youth, that's my least problem. Now, I just want to see more youth there, and the president can attach portfolio as we go. That's not too much of a problem for us yet. But like I said, the fact that he has not announced it, I do believe he already has a portfolio for some of these ministerial nominees.
Let me ask Princess Ajana this particular one about the Senate. Do you have any expectations on the part of the Senate, or do you have any fears? Looking at the fact that, one, there are no portfolios attached, and the fact that, you know, senators they've already expressed some of what it is that they expect to do today. What are your expectations from the senators?
I expect the senators to ask every single person on that list questions that every Nigerian wants answers to. We know those questions already going through our minds the moment the list was made public. I also want to see everybody talking about their potentials, what they have, talking about their careers, taking us through their career path, giving us records of what they have achieved in their past assignments. I wouldn't want anybody like the usual way you tell women to take a bow and leave. I don't want to see anybody taking a bow today, because those women have a lot to offer. The people on that list have got a lot for Nigerians, and giving them opportunity to speak to Nigeria will convince Nigerians. And like Ayo Makinde was worried, like talking about role models. What should people see? Who are those youth on the list that people will see and be inspired and say, okay, maybe there is hope for every young Nigerian out there? We have, like I said, the 3 youngest on that list are very young people. I'll start with Stella Okotete if I have the time. Honorable Stella Okotete, at the age of 35, was brought in as an administrator that she was brought into the party to come act as the woman leader for the Extraordinary Convention Committee. And at that time, we had our party members in disarray. We had women who were decamping, who have been wooed to other parties, and they've been decamping. But within the shortest period of time, she was able to bring back these people together. And she's the ED of Business Development with her records in Exim Bank. Then you see the likes of Dr. Betta Edu. She's the youngest on that list. She's been DG in her state. She was an SA to her governor. She was Commissioner of Health. She was the only functioning commissioner during COVID, and she was able to still do a lot to keep the economy afloat in her area.
I'm
and
sure
today
people
she's
will
there.
dispute that only functioning commissioner will, you know, be very, very disputed.
No, one of the most functioning commissioners. Then you see the likes of Iman Suleiman. She's also very young. She was about launching the permanent building she had for internally displaced people. This is something that she has achieved. So when people look at these people, you know, how do you achieve this? You'll be like,
so you want senators to actually ask them questions and no one should take a bow?
Ask them questions. Who even know? And like Pastor Felix said, you won't tell us that because portfolios were not attached to the Senate, we don't know the portfolios that these group of people. These are people, this is a precedent that even the senior special assistants and special assistants that have been appointed thus far, we have seen everybody is, a perfect situation or scenarios that you talk about, round pegs and round holes. We've not seen anybody that he has appointed so far that will say, oh, why did you give Barrister Hadiza policy reform? Oh, why did you give Mr. Dele Alake? We already know that the transformation in the media, in the information system that we've been clamoring for is here. Seeing Dele Alake, I don't need a soothsayer to tell me where to direct my questions. If I was a senator in the hallowed chambers today taking on them, or I see Wale Edu, or I see the legal luminary himself from Kwara State, this was someone who made people like myself wanting to study law at a very young age then in Kwara State. And then I'm so excited. I can't wait for him to come and give us the much-needed reform that we're clamoring for in the judiciary. So, yeah.
All right, I guess we'll see what happens at the end of the day. But certainly, several of them will take a bow and go. That will happen for sure today. So, as they say, it's their convention. So, nothing anybody can do about that. There cannot be two ministers of health, even if there are two health persons there.
There are three health persons. Dr. Doris
there can be three health ministers.
I think the question should be based on the capacity they are currently bringing on board.
What capacity?
What should not be asked questions about health. We know he's a media person. Professor Pate, focus on.
We have a Barrister Hanatu Musawatu. We have a lot of professionals. So when I hear people say,
why didn't you just make it easy? Since you already know this, we just attack portfolio to make it straightforward for all politicians.
Who technocrats are? Who you refer to as technocrats?
I guess we'll see the question, and everybody will see it, and then we'll see what goes on in the minds of the lawmakers who will be asking the questions. As a matter of fact, much later today. So. Keep tabs on them as well. So, gentlemen, gentlemen, thank you for coming on today. Dr. Nicholas Felix and Princess Atika Ajana, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, so we're back in just a moment. Stay on with us.
Part ranking, and they don't call me world best for no reason. I only deal with the best, be it auto or business. 100% claim is always guaranteed.
Welcome to world-class insurance services. Insurance.
Where insurance truly works.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
I think I'm desperate.
Is this dress even fine?
What if he doesn't like me?
He's here.
I'm his spec. Joe? Same Joe.
Same Joe.
minor differences. Same Joe, minor differences. Don't even think about judging Joe because you're probably just like him. Why is the name on your business bank account Ahmed Aminu and not your business name? Same business, different name, right? Stop impersonating your business and get an account in your business name with MoneyPoint.
Whatever it takes to make sure you have a business account opened in your business name, we'll do it as your sure banker.
Seriously, trouble. Is this not the same name?
Open a bank account in your business name with MoneyPoint.
Heartburn and indigestion? Try Just Eat. My recommendation for the past 26 years, Just Eat. Reliable remedy for heartburn, indigestion, flatulence, and acidity.
To give the confidence that only comes from knowing you are fully sorted. To show up for you just when you need a hand. And when retirement comes with all its worries and storms, to ensure we will stand by you and give you the coverage that you deserve. Make the perfect choice. Choose PAL Pensions today.
PAL Pensions, your pal for life.
The operational office of the National Emergency Management Agency headquarters in Yola, which houses food and non-food items, has been looted by some irate youths. The youths, believed to be members of the homegrown Shiller Boys terrorizing the state, perpetrated the act under the guise of hardship caused by the removal of fuel subsidy to unleash mayhem on innocent citizens. With some arrests made, the police public relations officer announces the recovery of some goods.
The 5 male suspects were apprehended and some items that were looted from the warehouses. This is one. Secondly, the command have succeeded in preventing them from going beyond the first warehouse that was attacked. The one belonging to the NEMA was the first one that was attacked, but the command have succeeded in preventing them from attacking the one that is located at Numan Road, belonging to Ministry of Agriculture.
The state coordinator of NEMA, on his part, speaks on the devastation on its facility by the hoodlums.
You see the 4 warehouses, they are all being looted. They vandalized them. You look at the building, not even through the main gates or main door. They even had to push, destroy the wall to find themselves in. You will see that a lot of items, both food and non-food items, have been carted away. And looking at our vehicles, about how many of our vehicles have been vandalized. Then the main office, which we just came in not quite 2 weeks ago, it has been vandalized. All the items destroyed, some carted away. And it's a high level of criminality.
Following the declaration of the curfew, only those on essential duties with valid identification are permitted to move around during the period.
Yeah, welcome back. As you've seen, Mr. Sonio Richard joins us. He's a policy analyst, former MD and CEO of Trust Bank, Fin Bank. He's also a former executive director of finance and accounts for the TCN. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Morning, Chamberlain.
Yeah, quite a number of things happening back home here. We just saw the reports of the unfortunate incident in Adamawa. But then today, let's start with this part. Today, the National Assembly, they will be screening ministerial nominees, the list sent to them by the president. And I know it's a ritual that happens this time whenever you have new government in place, especially the first term. So are you overly optimistic, or you just feel, look, nothing different, just get on with the work and move on? Do you expect anything different?
Okay, before I answer your question, let me make one correction. I was not the managing director of FinBank. Rather, my wife, Susan Iroche, was appointed by the central bank to recapitalize FinBank in 2009. Having said that, well, we are happy that the Federal Executive Council is being constituted, albeit partly, out of at least 36 ministers, because the Constitution made provision that each state of the Federation should have a ministerial slot. So we look forward with optimism that this team would help Mr. President run his government. I do not know, and I do not have to know them individually, but I know a few of them, particularly those in my industry, banking and finance. I know Mr. Waledu, and I know what his capabilities are. And I know Yusuf Tugo, who is the current Nigerian ambassador to Germany. So we'll give them a chance. You can never know the capability of any individual until they are given an assignment. And we're praying that they will steady the ship of statehood.
Does it bother you at all that the ministerial nominees have been nominated without portfolios attached to them? Some people think it's going to make the work of the Senate a bit untidy today.
Well, I had opined and written a lot about the ministerial appointments without portfolio to go to the National Assembly, particularly the Senate. By the time anybody qualifies to be a minister of any country, and I mean of any country, you don't have to be a specialist in that particular field, except some critical and technical ministries. Why do I argue this point? A minister is a generalist that should be able to rely on processes and the analysis of the permanent secretaries, the directors in the ministry, and have an informed judgment. I mean, you can't have a minister that probably comes with his fixed opinion. For me, as a banker, I have my fixed opinion on certain things, whereas some of my colleagues also have their own positions. Ditto in works. If you think because you're an engineer, in works, I mean, different engineers have different approaches. But for a minister, as a generalist, he should be able to have a bird's eye view of policies, implementation, and to do the job. I don't believe that that you must put what we describe as round pegs in round holes. Having said that, submitting ministerial names and attaching a portfolio to it makes it incumbent on the president to stick to those portfolios. What if he wants to reshuffle cabinet? Would he have to go back to say, okay, I'm moving Lagbaja from health, I'm putting it in rural development, and you need further state approval? No, the will of government must flow. The LCM of what I'm saying is for you to qualify to be a minister, you must be a generalist. You don't have to be technically tied to the specific ministry.
Well, the expectations of this particular set of ministers are going to be very high, given just where we currently are with our economy and, you know, even some of the things that are at hand. This week, it is expected that in Nigeria Labour Congress will be embarking on a protest. We've seen their memo go around the country. I think on Wednesdays when they're planning to do that. We've also seen something quite unpalatable happening in Adamawa State, where young people have gone, you know, ransacking a warehouse filled with palliatives, or, you know, things that are meant to be palliatives much later, ransacking the warehouses of the State Emergency Management Agency. Some people say this is, you know, perhaps well, I say, foretaste of what is to come if the palliatives do not get to the people on time. So for you, I mean, looking at what we have at hand, one, what are your expectations of the ministers when they're appointed? And maybe I should leave it there first, lest I ask you a double-barrel question.
Well, you've asked me a triple-barrel question now. I'll take them one after the other. We have great expectations. We imagine that the president would be the team leader. You are as strong as the weakest link in a chain. So we expect that the ministers would come with their maturity, they will come with their past experience to deliver to Nigerians. And I'm sure that Mr. President would not spare anyone any moment if they don't deliver, to remove them. So it is incumbent on them to be good representatives of their various states and to really give value to Nigeria. They should not see the office of a minister as being some exalted position where they are down lordship and lord it over other people. They are actually supposed to be servants of the people, because the Bible says, he who is greatest amongst you shall be your servant. He should not be on high horses, the typical Nigerian big man, I have arrived. No, this is not the time for grandstanding. This is the time to roll up your sleeves and do the work. It is important that the ministers are given the riot act by Mr. President, and everybody in Nigeria now should lead by example. Our country is in a dilemma. Our country is almost at the state of bankruptcy. So you need all the eggheads, you need all the dexterity, and you need all the seriousness. And we need to depart from our past profligacy, we need to depart from our past bad behavior and put our hands on the wheel and don't look back.
Right.
And secondly, on the removal of subsidy, and the labor, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, conclude your thoughts.
On the removal of the fuel subsidy, which a lot of analysts consider long overdue, if we had done this, say around 2012, when President General Goodluck Jonathan proposed to remove fuel subsidy, by now we would have gotten over the pains that go with subsidies. In 2012, January, the same NLC went on strike. You remember occupying Nigeria. You see, but some of these things have to be discussed. There has to be parley between government and the union. And the union has to be made to understand that it is in the long run interest of the country that we remove subsidy. But I must qualify here that there should be, on the other side, palliatives and other forms of subsidy to cushion the effect.
So, as someone, pardon me, as somebody who is largely well-versed in the power sector, what kind of questions do you expect from the lawmakers, and how should the country be approaching that sector?
That sector is suffering from insolvency as a result of subsidy in that sector, because our tariff is not cost reflective, and no business can work without taking care of the cost and making some profits. Having said that, the power sector has a lot of challenges. One, the TCN should really be unbundled into the Transmission Service Provider, TSP, and ISO, the Independent Systems Operator, which was licensed as far back as 2014 to operate at different sectors. That makes for efficiency. Secondly, we should also make sure that we implement the eligible customer regime which makes some high demand customers to use to tap from the transmission and the disco line, I think 330 and 135 and 135. It is very important that we get all those things right. And we also have to introduce mini and smart grids. And we need to also meter very well.
Okay,
it's
so
very important.
When you talk about pricing, it's a thorny issue with Nigerians because time and again, the question of increasing tariff always come up. There's one that the country is still grappling with. I mean, I heard that they've applied to NERC for that approval to come through. Can there ever be appropriate pricing? Now, what is that pricing that we can consider appropriate? Because if they keep increasing these prices, it sounds as though there will be no end to it.
Let's put it this way. What's the alternative to grid electricity? The alternative to grid electricity is your generator. Your cost of fueling your generator either with diesel or with PMS, and also the hazard that go with it. One, pollution, both sound pollution and air pollution. So the real cost of electricity is cost of generation, transmission, distribution, and a margin of profit for the investors. Electricity is like any other product. If you produce pure water, for instance, a bottle of pure water, and it costs you, say, 2 naira to produce, and you are expected to sell at 1 naira 20 kobo, it does not add up. Electricity is not supposed to be free. We take care of different demographics, different income levels.
Yeah, but Mr. Ruchi, we're not asking that it will be free. But I know that we don't have so much time on this segment, but these matters are usually very interesting.
Chamberlain, it has to be appropriately priced.
So what is the appropriate pricing then? At what cost? What cost can we call appropriate?
The appropriate pricing is what NERC and the power players, the market participants, determine that goes into producing 1 kilowatt hour of power. And it has to do with cost of fueling, cost of transmission, because the transmission company is there to make profit, and distribution companies are there to make profit. They have overheads that they have to cover. So there are mechanisms of pricing electricity all over the world. Nigeria is not peculiar in electricity markets. It's an international...
Okay. Even though the charter of service component, they say, look, this goes and providers gloss over all of that. And when they only seem to focus on that pricing component, because when they don't provide that service, there's something that's supposed to happen, but that usually doesn't happen, as we've seen over time. But I know this matters, there really never is an end to it. But well, looking forward to having someone who will be in the saddle as a minister who probably will identify and these issues will resonate with, and then get us out of the woods, in a manner of speaking, in that particular sector. We want to thank you for your time this morning. As always, we appreciate it a lot, Mr. Sonny Iroche. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Chamberlain, and I'm nice talking to you.
All right, so we will cross over to a correspondent in a moment, but I believe we'll be right back in just a moment, so stay on with us.
Presidents and representatives of 12 member states of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, arrived for the extraordinary session of the Union. The meeting, which was convened by the President of Nigeria and the ECOWAS chairperson, President Bola Tinubu, is to consider the socio-political developments in the Republic of Niger. Welcoming those present, he urged them to take a strong stand on the matter.
I want us to be strong, forceful, and resolute about survival Bazoum, as well as the freedom and restoration of the constitutionally elected body in the Niger Republic.
When the communique was presented, it was indeed a strong stand by the union. They called for the immediate release and reinstatement of President Mohamed Bazoum as president and head of state of the Republic of Niger, and for the full restoration of constitutional order in that country. They also rejected any form of resignation that may purportedly come from President Bazoum.
In the event the authorities' demands are not met within 1 week, take all measures necessary to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger. Such measures may include the use of force. To this effect, the chiefs of defense staff of ECOWAS are to meet immediately.
While condemning the pronouncement of support by some foreign governments and foreign private military contractors, some sanctions were also announced.
Closure of land and air borders between ECOWAS countries and Niger. 2, institution of ECOWAS no-fly zone on all commercial flights to and from Niger. Suspension of all commercial and financial transactions between ECOWAS member states and Niger. Freeze all service transactions, including energy transactions. Impose travel ban and asset freeze for the military officials involved in the coup attempt.
The resolutions taken by ECOWAS was applauded by the chairperson of the African Union Commission and the special representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, who were present. In his closing remarks, President Tinubu encouraged African leaders to take steps to foster stability and progress in their countries.
We will stand with our people and freedom and our commitment to the rule of law and not the barrel of gold. Africa has come of age. We reject coup, an interruption to constitutional order.
Now, one thing that has been emphasized here is that most of the resolutions taken here will take effect immediately. There is a determined air from this meeting that the presidents of ECOWAS will insist that this region is governed by the principles of democracy, rule of law, and good governance. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lassese, Channels Television News.
Let's get some perspectives on that issue with Adebayo Oluwake, who, as you've seen there, is a global affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us this morning. So, on the one hand is the coup, the reasons given, and the ECOWAS. There are concerns about whether or not, this is going to spread one way or the other into Nigeria. But perhaps a general understanding of exactly what is happening. Did this coup come to you as a surprise, given what's been happening before now?
Thank you for having me, and good morning. Yes, the coup came to me as a surprise because when President Bazoum was initially elected, there were strong rumors that a coup had taken place. There were diplomatic efforts at the time, and I remember the regime of President Buhari issued a very stern warning to the armed forces of Niger. And then President Bazoum was able to be sworn in. So one would have thought that having overcome that initial threat, that his administration would have taken measures to secure his presidency. But obviously that hasn't happened. And now we have this situation on our hands which is an extremely worrisome situation. If I just quickly explain why it's extremely worrisome. First of all, Niger is part of the coalition in the multinational joint task force comprising Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger itself. And this coalition has successfully contained Boko Haram and ISWAP in the Lake Chad region. Then, of course, Niger borders Mali to the west. Mali has had a strong jihadi insurrection of its own, and I don't want to go into all that has happened in Mali because a lot of people are aware of the challenges and the expulsion of French forces, the expulsion of UN peacekeeping forces, and the preparation of Wagner PMC of Russia to fully take over security in Mali. And then Niger also is the buffer for Nigeria against Libya. So we know that Libya is totally unstable. The government of Libya in Tripoli doesn't have sovereignty over all of its territory. And therefore, Niger occupies a significant geopolitical index in our security calculus. And lastly, globally, Niger produces 5% of global uranium needs. Last year, it produced 2,020 metric tons, which is exactly 5% of total global production. And uranium, as you know, is used for nuclear energy or even for the production of atomic weapons. So this is the security risk that Niger constitutes. And the coup that has happened there is a very, very big threat to the entire region. I believe ECOWAS under President Tinubu has taken a very resolute position. And I think this is the way to go. But there are certain things they need to consider.
Yeah, well, perhaps we'll be able to get to those. But then, I mean, raising the issue, the economic angle that you raised now, there are those who are raising concerns about Niger, the coup that happened here, being more of an international, being of more international significance between certain world powers. France, Russia have been mentioned, among others. How significant is that from your own calculation?
I believe strongly that, yes, I mean, that is a factor, and we can have some discussion on that. But the fact remains that there are internal problems within Niger. And it is this internal problem that the external forces are capitalizing on. Let's recall that the United States and France have military bases inside of Niger. Particularly the drones used by the US Air Force and to some extent the French Air Force to monitor developments in the Sahel are all located in Niger. And there are roughly about a battalion strength each of French and US forces stationed in the country. So that already gives you the international dimension that you're alluding to. And now, talking about the possible involvement of relationship with Russia, you would know that in Mali, the expulsion of French forces, largely because of frustration by Malian citizens that France has not done anything to stop the jihadi insurrection there, has seen Mali tilting towards Russia. And that has paved the way for PMC Wagner to be deployed. Burkina Faso as well, that has also suffered an insurgency, has also had deployments of PMC Wagner troops. So there are those who speculate that what is probably happening in Niger could also have been instigated, even though we know that Brigadier General Chiani, the commander of the Presidential Guards who staged this coup, has never been on good terms with President Bazoum. The problem is how come President Bazoum left him in that position for so long? But clearly, there are a lot of external influences, as you have noted.
And out to the elephant in the room, is there any cause for concern, worry, anxiety for Nigeria and Nigerians by extension?
I think that at the moment, Niger does not constitute a threat to Nigeria. The military in Niger is just 12,000. That's about 12 battalions. It's just a little over a division. The Air Force, which might be the deciding factor here, they have only 2 fighter aircraft, 9 helicopters, and maybe 1 or 2 surveillance aircraft. So militarily, Niger is not a threat to Nigeria. The problem arises on how we respond to what is happening in Niger. ECOWAS has taken a very firm position. which is understandable. But I personally believe that ECOWAS should perhaps only use the military to apply pressure rather than to actually deploy the military for combat. Without any doubt, ECOWAS will militarily overcome Niger. But the problem is that in the process, one, you could lose the life of President Bazoum, and secondly, you could create something that we cannot control. Because Niger is critical to the multinational joint task force securing the Lake Chad. Niger is also critical as a buffer for Nigeria from jihadi elements from the western side, northwest, which is Mali. And then Niger is critical as a buffer against what is happening in Libya. So for these reasons, I believe that ECOWAS, while I support entirely the position of ECOWAS and that of its chairperson, President Tinubu, I think they have to be very careful.
You know that the challenge here is that Nigeria as a country has its own fair share of challenges which President Tinubu needs to pay attention to naturally. And there is that bit happening in Niger, having to coordinate ECOWAS. Yes, resolutions have been made. Again, there are questions as to just how effective all these sanctions and bans are. Perhaps we'll take that up, because we've seen how it played out in Russia, all of the bans and sanctions, yet the war is still on. But let me step back a bit and ask, have we been able to critically interrogate why coups have become fashionable in this part of the world, really? Is that something we're paying attention to as well, such that we don't have another country springing up on us and all of a sudden you realize that most of the countries in this region have the same challenge?
Thank you very much. I hope we have enough time. Let me try and be brief. I think, first of all, we had the coronavirus pandemic, which upset the global economy and was more devastating in its impact on the economy of developing countries. Added to that, we had, I would say, the removal of Colonel Gaddafi in Libya by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization created a very huge security vacuum. And if I just quickly remind the viewers, Mali, the same Mali that we're talking about, with regard to the situation in Niger right now, had a long-running civil war, pitting the Tuaregs in the north against the Africans in the south of Mali. And the Tuaregs had the support of Colonel Gaddafi for a long time. But eventually Gaddafi decided that the war should stop and that Mali should have a chance at peace. But some of those Tuareg groups refused to stop fighting. So Gaddafi took those that refused to stop fighting to Libya and put them in the Libyan army. And then I think from the regime of President Alpha Conare, peace returned to Mali. Now, when NATO invaded Libya and drove Colonel Gaddafi out, they allowed the Tuaregs in the Libyan army to return to Libya with all the weapons, because there was a no-fly zone in Libya, remember? And NATO was patrolling the skies, and it was all desert anyway. So the Tuaregs were able to go back to Mali with all the brand new weapons from Libya, and they overwhelmed the Malian army. And that was the very first coup that brought Captain Sanogo to power. They overthrew the government, and ECOWAS also tried. And that already created a very big destabilizing factor. Unfortunately, it spilled over to Burkina Faso, and the military in those two countries felt that the civilian administration were not doing enough to contain the rebellion. So they ended up having military coups. The case of Guinea was President Lansana Conte deciding to amend the constitution and go for a third term. And unfortunately, that also eventually led to a coup, and it was removed. So I think that we have had poor governance, the effect of the coronavirus pandemic, and the security vacuum in Libya. I think these are the three critical factors that have been largely responsible for what we are seeing in West Africa at the moment. Having said that, I do not think there's any justification for the coup in Niger. There is absolutely no justification for the coup in Niger. President Bazoum has just been elected. I mean, he's basically new in office. So what justifies a coup? So I feel that this could be the reasons why we are having these unconstitutional changes in power.
Well, it's a beginning of conversations, one might say, because the question Kade asked is quite significant, especially how it concerns Nigeria, given that Niger is a border country to Nigeria, and there are scares or fears in some quarters that should there be unrest that's lingering in Niger, the likelihood of people spilling into the country could be high, but we'll have to take that on some other time. Adebayo Oluwake, Global Affairs Analyst, thank you so much for your time and perspectives this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Chamberlain.
Yes, indeed. We're crossing over to the National Assembly, the Senate, where our correspondent Linda Kigbe joins us this morning for an update on what is going on there at the moment. Good morning, Linda. Well, yes, all eyes on the Senate today concerning the screening. So what information do you have at the moment concerning what to expect today?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chamberlain. So we are inside the Senate chamber where in a couple of hours, the ministerial screening will begin. You know, President Bola Tinubu sent the names of the ministerial nominees last Thursday for screening and confirmation by the Senate. So we learned that 20 nominees have completed the documentation, which started last Friday and ran through the weekend. But we also learned that some nominees haven't come for their documentation because some of them are out of the country at the moment, but the documentation period is still open for nominees who haven't done their documentation to come and do so. And so we're expecting them to come to the National Assembly in the next couple of days. We also learned that 20 nominees actually have completed their documentation, and some of them have been screened, have had security agencies. They've been screened by security agencies. We also learned that today's screening exercise is going to be on a first come, first served basis. So in terms of those who did their documentation early enough will be those who will be screened today.
Oh, so that suggests that probably everybody will be on the same level playing field. But lots of people have also spoken about what they feel or think about this thing that the National Assembly says is their culture, bow and go. That is likely going to happen today, while some others will be screened. Isn't that the case?
That is definitely the case. The National Assembly has a, culture, as you said, where former lawmakers are asked to take a bow and go. And we expect to see that today. We have some former lawmakers from the Senate and the House of Representatives, and even a serving senator, Senator David Mahi, who would also be screened. He's a ministerial nominee. So we expect that, you know, these people will be asked to take a bow and go, as is the tradition of the Senate.
Are there any other concerns? Are the senators concerned that there were no portfolios attached to the ministerial nominees who they're going to be seeing today?
Yes, this has been a major concern, and it didn't start now. We've seen previous assemblies, you know, talk about the need for the president to attach portfolios to the ministerial list, but this has not happened. And curiously, the last assembly did embark on the amendment of the Constitution, the last phase, and one of the things they had spoken about was to make sure that portfolios, to amend the Constitution to ensure that the president attaches the portfolios of ministerial nominees. But that didn't even happen. That certain constitutional clause did not pass from the National Assembly. And so we didn't see that happen in the ninth Assembly. And so maybe in this phase of constitutional amendment, because we know that every assembly tends to amend or review the Constitution in one way or the other. So we expect that this assembly will amend the Constitution, and this may be one of the clauses which will be added into this phase of the Constitution, because the Constitutional amendment done in the Ninth Assembly was what brought about the clause that the president has to submit the ministerial nominees within 60 days of assuming office. So fingers crossed that this issue of portfolio will be done in this phase of constitutional amendment by the 10th Assembly.
Do we have an idea of how many people will be screened today? I know you already said it's going to be on a first-come, first-served basis, but do we have an idea of those who are slated to be screened this morning, since it's an order of how they were documented?
Okay, so for now, we don't have that information on how many people will be screened, but it would also depend on the time and what kind of questions lawmakers will be asking the nominees and how many questions they would ask and how long the nominees will, take the time they will take to answer this question. So it's not clear right now.
Who knows? Maybe they might limit each senator or lawmaker to one question, and who knows if they will limit it to ranking senators first or not. So do you have any information as to how they will proceed with that?
And so typically what happens is that they call up a nominee, and then he introduces himself to give a short introduction of his profile, his or her profile. After that, lawmakers will begin to ask questions. But, what we've seen over time is that lawmakers are given time slots, so you don't take so much time asking the question. And so it's open, as many lawmakers who want to ask questions are allowed to also ask questions.
So in one of your interviews with Senator Izunaso on the sidelines, he did hint about them possibly receiving additional lists from the president. So do we know if that is likely going to happen? Because they were initially talking about their recess before now, but now that this is here, who knows if they'll still proceed?
They were supposed to have proceeded on recess since last week. The House of Representatives is currently on recess, but because of this screening, they haven't gone on recess. Now, as regards the remaining names for the ministerial list, we spoke to some officials, and as at present, as at now, no extra list has been forwarded to the National Assembly.
All right, then, Linda Akigbe, we'll do thank you for your time and all the best, because we will be bringing everyone live feedback and reportage from you and the team there and all of us, as a matter of fact, on the developments as they will play out today. Thank you, Linda. Well, just to also put out there that the president will be expected to address the country today by 7 p.m. So we'll look forward to that one. So I know you may guess, you're thinking, what will they be? What will the address be? You just need to log on, tune in by 7 p.m. for that live broadcast. So that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Goodbye.
Well, I did say it was going to be a very busy week. Make sure that you stay logged on for the news. Catch them as they come. If you're on the move, www.channelstv.com will keep you updated. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Yusuf.
Yes, it's going to be a big day, even for our girls at the FIFA World Cup. Yeah, just something on this side as well. They'll be playing today. So keep it locked here. I'm Kairo Kikyola.
So how are you going to make it a big day or week for Nigeria? That's on you. Maya Makinde, have a wonderful day.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other